Okay, so first question, you've been nominated for the Coach of the Year award for a second time in a row. How do you feel about this recognition?
I feel it's always good to be recognized for the work you're doing, especially because it's a panel of some very competent people. I think it's 20 people from different teams, experts from HLTV and also from the broadcasting community, staff there. I just personally didn't expect it so much this year. I think we had an okay year, but in my eyes, I think there's other people who deserve it maybe a little bit more. And especially the coach role, I think often it's a reflection of how good the team is, what other people see in the team. And I think that's also a big shoulder applause, I would say.
Yeah, that kind of connects to a follow-up question. I wanted to ask you about the two guys you go up against this year, Blade and Holly. They are two of the winningest coaches of 2024, obviously. Who do you think will come out on top and why? Because it is an interesting question, in my opinion, that how coaches rate other coaches.
I think a lot about coming into the year, what you had to work with, and how much work I can see that the coach has put on, what's their footprint on the team. And I think let's start with Blade. They went international. I think they did it before this year, but before then they were always more of a national team, and with picking up IM and JL, who are not clear top talent at the time, wonderful as well, even still making it work. And in my opinion, having it's next to Spirit, the most competitive year, consistently at the very top. I think Blade put definitely his footprint, especially his tactical approach to the game, on that team, and also now in an international roster. I think that deserves a huge applause. Clear what identity they have and what they're going for. I think in the terms of Spirit, probably the only team to succeed right now with a national roster. I think also the Mongols one is quite successful, which I find impressive. Also, they have a lot of rookies on that team. It's a quite young team, giving the space to all of the three young guys, Magic's, Sontics, not to forget as well. Of course, Dunk was a bit of a phenom. I think that's also very impressive, and takes a coach who has more skills than just a good eye for the game. And I think both of them could deservedly run with it this year. I'm taking myself out of the picture, I'll be honest. I was one of the ones voting. They were respectively my number 1 and 2.
Well, one of the things that maybe separates you from some of the other coaches in the top is that you, for most of your coaching career, you played exclusively with young, inexperienced players, and you brought them to the top, or as close to the top as possible. How did you do it as many times? Because I feel like it's been something that's been a reason that you've been rated so highly as you were in these years.
And one big advantage of working with young people is that they're still quite coachable. They're not so fixed in their minds and opinions yet. I mean, still, I think if you're a top player, you have some level of ego and some level of stubbornness. Quite easy to shape a culture that I think is the right one. And also have people around who help a lot with that. I think that's the biggest takeaway of why it's been possible. It's because they're still very coachable. They all fit into that same mold, and they all buy into the idea. I think that's key.
Yeah, from MOUZ NXT to this lineup, Torzsi seems to be a constant for your coaching career. What do you think of him and his progress throughout the years, both inside and outside the server?
He's a bit of a grinder. I think he's, in our team now, one of the ones that is the most professional in his approach, but it's not been easy to get him there. He's still quite an emotional player at times, and he's had to learn a lot how to handle his emotions, also on a bigger stage. And how he goes about things has become more professional. Sometimes when I talk with him, I say when we started in NXT, he was maybe a top 30 AVP in the world, maybe a top 20. You could argue had a lot of talent. Then maybe a top 15 on the main team, then a top 10, and now he's probably a top 5 MVP player in the world, right? And he's slowly grinding and putting in a consistent effort to get up to higher rankings. And I think he's a good case of don't ever give up, even if it's not easy. I think he's really working his way up there, and if someone deserves it, I think it's him.
Yeah, if you think back, one of the things about him is he was a VAC band back in the day, right? And I remember in the V4 2019 event he played with Gamerzone. It was basically the start of his career. He was banned, he was shunned in the community here, and he was still a breakout player. And then 2 years after that, playing for MOUZ NXT, winning all those academy trophies. It seems like he, obviously coming up, you have a huge unrealized potential, and then as you grind your way, there is a slow, you are slowing down a bit maybe, but do you still think that he didn't hit the ceiling, as to say?
He did not hit the ceiling yet. I think he's still improving and growing. For him, it's very consistent, small steps at a time. And when there is a step back, because everyone has those, no one has just a linear progression. It's maybe half a step, and then he works slowly his way back. And still only 22, right? Even if I've worked with him for a long time, I think he turns 23 this year. So still quite young. He's not supposed to peak yet in his career. He's still finding new ways and new tricks to keep it entertaining for himself. And yeah, he's consistently growing and improving. And I find it tough to see that he's going to fall off that, just because I see the effort he puts in. And just something else you mentioned, maybe it's interesting to share, is that you touched on his VEC ban. When we were assembling the team for NXT back then, I had some MVP players in mind, and Torzsi was one of the ones I did an interview with. I did an interview with all the players. So I just called him on Discord, added him, and the first thing he said is, I can't believe someone like MOUZ is interested in me. I have to be honest with you guys. I have a VEC ban right now. I'm not sure if you know about it, but I have a VEC ban. I cannot play in the majors. And just to let you know, he was really humble in that moment. And it showed me a lot about his character, that he didn't want to be dishonest with anything. And that really stood out to me. Of course, I was aware that he was VEC banned before we had to talk, but also that it would expire at some point. And when it would expire, maybe it would be a time that he could move up and make the next step, So in that time frame, it was quite easy to work around. It was more just that he came forward and instantly was honest about it, that I liked a lot.
Well, talking about 2024, you signed a new deal with MOUZ at the start of last year. And your goals were, as you put it at the time, to stay within the top 3, to reach number 1 at one point, and maybe win a major. But some of these things happened for you, obviously, some didn't. How do you rate the last year compared to your goals?
If I had to give last year a rating, I'd probably give it a B+. I think for us to have gone even higher, if it's an A-, we would have had to win a big trophy on a stage somewhere. Maybe have beaten Navi at the Rio final, or Kelowna Katowice. We're at the playoffs in all the big tournaments, right? Which was also one of the goals, to be consistently part of the best 5 teams, the best 3 teams. Yeah, the major, we didn't hit that mark. I felt like in Shanghai it was really our chance. We built a lot up for that moment, and weren't ready when it came to it. And possibly now, also in reflection, there's other things we could have done differently, or that we still have to look at. But I would give it a B-. I think overall, if you look at the MOUZ team from an outside perspective, fairly acceptable year. You would say, wow, good job. You managed to be inside top 6. You even reached top 1 at one point, right? Playoffs of all the big events. But I know internally we still have a bit higher ambitions. And especially the winning in front of a LAN crowd is one of the big ones that we want to achieve.
Yeah, this has been one of the biggest talking points about your performance throughout the last year, and the difference between you playing in group stages and arenas. And I feel like some of the players are visibly getting better in this transition, though.
Thank you.
What do you think about this discussion in light of that? Or what is the next step to realize the full potential of the guys?
Yeah, I think it's totally fair to say that there's a difference in how we perform from group stage to the big arena. I think it's only natural as well with a young group of people that we also don't really have someone on the team or a few guys who has that experience or that knowledge. It's more in terms of the staff that we have a bit of it, but we've slowly been progressing. And happy you can see it. I think also most people should see it now that we can win on stage, that we are a threat, especially if we're there. I think we can beat anyone. Still, it's still a learning curve for us. I think for this year there should be no excuses in this regard, that the land stage is much different, or that we have disadvantage compared to the other teams. It's not the case anymore, but definitely at the start of the season or even the year before then, was something that we worked on and quite intensively, tried always to take the best learnings we could from every time we were up there, like emotionally, but also in terms of just how we set ourselves up for the day or for the moment.
Well, there were some rumors about MOUZ maybe being picked apart in the roster mania, and I don't know where things stand today, or is it safe to say that last year's MOUZ lineup stands together at this point, or is it still up in the air?
I'll let we're gonna make some announcements and I'll wait for those before I say anything. But you're definitely right that there was a lot of interest for us. It's only natural as well because we were quite decent last year and we have a super exciting team, right? So a lot of young players on all positions, and not just that, and that they're talented, they're also very capable when you see them at events, carry themselves professionally, they're good in interviews. I think any of these guys would be an amazing pickup for most organizations out there, right?
So is it something that changes the discussion about these group stages versus arenas performance discussion, that the team been spending a lot of time together at this point, one of the most experienced cores playing together versus the age of the players?
I think obviously for the team to know how all the dynamics behave when the stage comes around matters. Like if you have that stage experience together, it matters a lot. I think especially also individual to have that knowledge and experience of how it is, and understanding that maybe it's not so much different, and being able to enjoy it or find your anchor or whatever tool you use to handle the pressure comes also a lot from individual time. I think one of the main things that comes from being so long together is that you have to find ways of keeping it still fresh, still challenging yourself a little bit, and that's a lot of the things we're working on this season. Because if you look at our team, the core has been together for a long time. You're totally right.
Well, looking forward, the biggest change in the game right now is the vertigo terrain swap. And what do you think about the new map?
Yeah, so first of all, I think Vertigo was overdue. Like we could have swapped it out a long time ago. We did try and play it, and it was just very inconsistent for us. I think it was for most teams. So happy that they did something. I think for a train, it's I play a lot in matchmaking also with my friends, and also of course as a team we sit down, we look a little bit at what's possible and these things right on a new map. It's always exciting. I think it's still not fully polished as a map. I think anytime Valve does something new, it's very interesting. And I think definitely that this map could have a place in a very good map pool. Still would love if every half year they make a map swap, or maybe even they opted to 9 maps. I'm missing a cache and a ore pass in there. Just to say that I'm always happy when they make a map swap, and I think it could have been trainers, it could have been anything else. Just something new is nice and exciting.
So is train a map that you can slot into your map pool?
Right now, of course, if Vertigo goes out and we were perm banning Anubis, it means that we only have 5 maps. So we can decide to just play 5 maps and gamble all the time to play one perm ban. And we have to figure out if we're going to play Anubis or train, of course, right? With train, the case right now is just the obvious case is that we're on the equal footing as all other teams, because it's new and fresh. But a map like Anubis, we're obviously quite a bit behind. So we've had some discussions and talks internally about what would be the best approach for these things. I'm not going to share here exactly what our line of thought is, but definitely we need to put some consideration into what we do now with our map pool.
All right. For the last question, what are your goals for 2025?
Goals for 2025 is to still keep progressing, finding new and fresh ideas to keep also the individuals progressing on the team, because it's, I think, what we succeeded a lot in previously. Would like to win an arena game in front of a crowd. I think once we pop that balloon for the guys, it's going to become a lot easier moving forwards to do that again. I think the majors are still the big standouts. Now we've been in the playoffs of 2 of them. Let's try and actually win one this time would be the big goal. Of course, Katowice and Cologne have a special spot in everyone's minds, but also for our team, we're a German-based organization, so Cologne would be quite the big deal. It's always where we have the closest to a home crowd in MOUZ. It's not often that we're favorites or in the fans' eyes at all. And in Katowice, we also have Kamil on our team, right? Who's Polish, also matters a lot. So to win one of those 4 events would be incredible. And I think if we manage to win early in the season on a stage LAN game, could be easier to do it later on as well, or to replicate and have more of these results. So yeah, that's the objective. I would also something we're really working on a lot in MOUZ is to change a little bit the narrative that we're just a feeding organization, that we're a gateway from tier 2 to tier 1, and that there are some top teams like Fatality, D2 and FaZe, and they will always be above MOUZ. I think this narrative, let's remove that completely in 2025.
It sounds great. Sycrone, thank you for your time and good luck achieving these goals.
Thank you, Thibaut. Thank you for the interview.
A sportfogadási élmény következő szintjét a megújult Tipmix radar hozza. Állítsd össze a szelvényeidet a mobilodon, és játszd meg egy lottózóban. Kövesd nyomon a fogadásaidat, és értesülj a mérkőzések eredményeiről azonnal. Tipmix radar app. Töltsd le most!